Okay, so here is the truth about Reef Delete.
What?
It's not going to kill your corals instantly. That is just not how this works. When we designed and developed Reef Delete, we wanted to find a solution that wasn't going to use any chemicals, so there's nothing nasty you've got to put in the tank, and isn't a laser. Now, if you use a laser in a tank, not only is it really dangerous because it can bounce off the glass and damage someone's eyes very quickly, they're not particularly efficient at killing stuff because they burn the coral or the pest. Reef Delete does not do that. It uses UVC. And UVC works by breaking down the DNA within the cells of the organism, which then stops that cell from working. Because the DNA is damaged, it can't repair itself, and eventually that cell dies, and then once you've killed enough cells off, the organism won't be able to function normally, and it will collapse, it will then rot and die, and it will take all of itself with it. You obviously want to keep treating it to make sure that you get enough cells treated, and then you can use it to sterilize the area afterwards to make sure that nothing's ever going to grow back again. So that is the main point, and something I think people have been missing about Reef Delete is that you have to use it several times to get the job done, and it's not an instant point and shoot. What you're doing is irradiating the organism, and you're giving it enough UVC to kill enough DNA, to kill enough cells, which then dies later on. So it's not an instant process. But it is quite rewarding as acarists. When you're treating the organism, you can see that it's clearly in trouble under Reef Delete. And yeah, that is the biggest point I wanted to get across, was that Reef Delete is not an instant killer. It is a product that's going to take time, and it will give you the results, but you have to be patient with it. The second point that I wanted to come across with you guys is that the treatment time does absolutely vary between different organisms. It depends how big it is, how dense the cells are in there, how much zooxanthellae it's got, because they will die quickly, and all sorts of different factors. So what works for one guy might not necessarily work for the next one. So whilst we've suggested the minimum dose time of 1 minute, if it's a bigger organism like a big chunky, big chunky Aptasia, you're probably going to want to treat that for 3 minutes at a time and do that 4 or 5 times. The other interesting point about some of the motile stuff, like anemones, like Aptasia, is that if they work out that the area that they're in isn't beneficial for life because they're getting hit by Reef Delete, they may move overnight, which they might move to a position where you can easily pick it out, which is great, or they might move to a position where they simply just rot and die, depending on how much you've treated it, of course. So it's worth considering that you may have to use this in a different place to catch the pest that's moved. If it's stuff like green star polyps, obviously easy peasy, xenia, stuff like that. And we've also heard lots of people thinking about using it to treat big mushroom infestations where it's just grown over everything. Yeah, it's going to work, but it's also going to take a really long time because you have to do multiple treatments. So in cases and stuff like that, big amounts of hair algae or pest algae, physically remove as much as possible as you can, cut it out, and then use Reef Delete to treat the remains to ensure that it doesn't grow back again. That's kind of where this really has its strong point, is you can sterilize the surfaces in the aquarium to stop stuff from growing back, which is another great bit for if you've got new coral coming and you want to clear the area, just make sure there's no pest algae or all sorts of stuff there. One thing to remember with that is that obviously if you are going to use it to clear a big infestation, you've got hundreds of pests in there, it's going to take time for each one, but it will get there.